girlfriend cheated on me, I found out. Threw her dildos off the balcony on the second floor. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another story about Reddit cheating. Please click the subscribe button and the notification bell before we begin so you don't miss another cheating story. I hope that the title might persuade some folks to read it. Lol. This occurred approximately 12 years ago. I moved in with a girl I'd been dating for around 8 months at the time. Yes, we moved quickly, but we were both unhappy with our current living situations and could afford a great place together, so we said screw it. For the first few months, everything was fine, but then I noticed she was acting shady. She would always have her phone on her and she would sleep with it in her pocket. That isn't suspicious in the least. Also, because I work nights and she worked days, important. When I left for work, she would barely speak to me at all. Despite the fact that we hadn't spoken or seen each other all day, I could text at work as I had tons of downtime. Anyway, I started to have a horrible feeling because I'd been through similar situations before. So I started looking into it. Because she didn't have her own computer, I downloaded a different messenger program that she wasn't aware of. I think it was Pigeon because I was using Ubuntu at the time, which preserved logs of the discussions. She was also unaware of this, so I began to see that she was always flirting with other guys hardcore, but that she hadn't actually physically cheated that I was aware of. Also, one night while I was working late, I told my employer about my suspicions. It was around midnight, and we had 2 hours before we had to do anything. So he told me to go home and see if she was there, which I didn't think she would be. She wasn't one of them. Hey, where have you been? I texted her. I'm watching TV in the living room, she explained. I was thinking to myself, oh my God, because I'm in the Livy NG room, I believe I'm in another dimension. She said she was at her friend's place, a guy I knew was after her, and she was aware of it. She was also a fan of his. Yeah. The final nail in the coffin came a week later when she went to a party with a group of her friends and did not return home that night. Because the party was done, I saw on Facebook that all of her pals were online and telling stories about it. She hadn't returned home yet. So when she arrived home, she pretended to be extremely lovely, loving, and crap. So yeah, I sensed something wasn't right. How pathetic is that? Finally, the conclusion you've been anticipating. My internet was messed up, so the charter internet guy came to our flat that same day. She wanted to give the dog a bath while he was there and left her phone on the counter. She never did this. I had no choice. I took a look at her messages. Did you like it when I was on top? Said the very first one I saw to a guy I didn't know. Or preferred, posture. Next time we'll use toys, suggested another. She liked to include toys, I screamed. I had my suspicions and knew pretty much what was going on, but this was 100% confirmation. I said to the charter employee who was still working on the internet, you got to get out of here, dude. I don't care about the internet since I just found out that this scumbag cheated on me. He resembled, yes indeed. Later on Elmau. I completely lost my mind as soon as he walked out the door. I honestly don't recall much of what happened. All I recall is her yelling and her attempting to berate me for staring at her phone. Yeah, not gonna fly cunt, so next time you're going to use toys, huh? I recall saying. Then I walked over to where she kept all the dildos. She had about 3 or 4 and carried them to our second-story balcony, where I threw them into the field behind our apartment. We had apartments below, next to, and above us. Then I walked away before I threw her off as well. I walked back to my car to try to gather my composure before speeding away like a bat out of hell. Then I got to see her pick up her dildos while walking around the field in front of all of her neighbors. I wish I could have joked about it at the time, but I wasn't in the mood. But now I can't help but laugh my arse off whenever I think about it. I apologize for the wall, TLDR. I discovered that my girlfriend had cheated on me. Her dildos were thrown out the second-story balcony. I stood there watching her do a dildo scavenger hunt in front of her neighbors. The second story is as follows. My ex-girlfriend meant the world to me. I came out earlier than I intended to because of her. She helped me see that there was nothing wrong with me by encouraging me to be myself. I was socially uncomfortable before I met my ex-girlfriend. I was always alone because I didn't know how to interact with others. I would go to class and sit alone in the back. Everything about me changed when she strolled in one afternoon. I began brushing my hair and experimenting with different makeup looks. She was stunning and guffawed a lot. After she insisted on knowing my name, we became friends. We got along swimmingly. Our first kiss took place in a forest while we were photographing nature for a collage project. It was my first kiss, so it meant a lot to me. We had been dating for approximately 7 months when I decided it was time to tell my family everything, including the fact that I am a lesbian. Except for my brother, everyone handled it admirably. It concerned me since we were such good friends and I valued his affection and support greatly. I made the decision to put the relationship on hold and focus on reuniting with my brother. For approximately a month, it carried on like this. My ex-girlfriend offered to speak with him, and I agreed. She began behaving in a certain way towards me not long after that. I tried all I could to persuade her to open up, but she kept repeating she needed to. Think about it. My cousin informed me later that week that she saw them snapping pictures by the shore and thought it was strange because they seemed so close. I assured her that it was nothing because, after all, she isn't lesbian. She had started sleeping with my brother, and they had managed to hide it so effectively that I was broken, and everything in my life crumbled. I suddenly reverted to my shadowy, lonely, and socially inept self. I haven't really recovered from the incident after 5 years. My brother and I haven't spoken in years, and I tried to avoid my ex as much as possible until we graduated from high school. I'm still hurt and broken. It's still bothering me. It's had an impact on everyone and everything in my environment. The third tale is as follows. My wife and I have been married for 15 years. We have 3 children, and life is fairly wonderful for us. We started discussing her uploading stripped photographs on Reddit a few weeks ago. She's a lovely woman who is low, looking for some anonymous attention, and the notion of it was hugely appealing to me. So after some deliberation and discussion, we decided to give it a shot. We established ground rules, and she promised to be completely open and honest with me. Great. Well, she posted a couple photos, and it went viral. We stayed up most of the night corresponding with people and having a great time because she received hundreds of messages and upvotes. That night, we had some of the finest couple night we've ever experienced. It was a huge turn-on for both of us. However, things took a turn for the worse when a particularly attractive man sent her a kick chat request. I could see she was turned on by what he was saying and the visuals he was showing her right away. This was fine with me. It was kind of the purpose. I asked her if she was still communicating with anyone a few days later, and she responded no. No issue, I reasoned. After I saw her taking a photo of her boobs in our bathroom a few hours later, she became embarrassed/flustered and quickly made up a narrative that she was just taking a photo for herself and no one else. I thought it was strange, so I brought it up later in the day and urged her to be completely honest with me. She doubled down on the story. It's not a huge deal. We had a usual night, and I went to bed at 10 o'clock. I awoke about 2 a.m. for some reason, and my wife was awake, texting on Kik, and didn't notice. I feigned to be asleep while watching her send him photographs in her messages. My heart sank to the ground. After some thought, I decided to give my wife another chance to tell me the truth. So the next day, I asked her if she had been messaging anyone, and she told me flat out that she hadn't and that she didn't want to talk to anyone. As a result, I was clearly suspicious at this point. I glanced through her phone later while she was in the shower and noticed the chat. Most of the texts had been erased, and none of the photographs she had sent the night before were there. I debated whether or not to tell her about it, but later that night I made the decision to tell her. She initially pretended she wasn't talking to anyone, but when I mentioned that I looked through her phone and saw missing messages, she finally admitted to giving him many photographs, including one that had her face, which was against our agreement. She claimed she became swept up in the situation and began to develop affections for this man, and that he coerced her into sending photographs. She explained that she was embarrassed and guilty about how she felt for him, and that she couldn't be honest with me because it would hurt me too much. I suppose I should provide some background information on the two of us. My wife and I had a lot of trust issues in our relationship. She cheated on me once, and I found her communicating with ex-boyfriends frequently. When I confronted her, she would lie until I could show what she had done, at which point she would break down and confess everything. But it was years ago, and she's been open and honest with me for a long time. I felt like we were in a good place and that I could trust her to accomplish something like this because we'd both grown up a lot. I believe I was mistaken. That night, she messaged a guy on Kik, telling him she couldn't talk to him anymore and deleting the app. Her Reddit account was likewise deactivated. She claimed she'd never do anything like this again and that she wanted to keep our marriage and family together. I'm undecided on what to do. It would be one thing if this was the first time, but alas, it isn't. As a result, I'm definitely sad. Part of me wants to just dig down and stay together for the sake of the kids, to distance myself and become unattached. I'm at a loss on what to do about being in a loveless marriage. Thank you for viewing, and be sure to check out our other infidelity stories videos. Please subscribe if you haven't already to get more daily Reddit cheating stories.